This is Inner Work, a spiritual growth podcast, a sanctuary for healers, light workers, and spiritual practitioners here to raise consciousness on this planet. You've come to the right place to heal yourself and fully awaken your unique gifts so you can show up to serve others as powerfully and purposefully as possible. I am your host, Josephine Hartman, a certified intuitive healer and Akashic Records master teacher. I'm honored you're here and delighted to walk with you on your path for a little while. To connect with me and explore ways of working together, please head over to josephinehartman.com. Hello, and welcome to this new episode of Inner Work. Whether this is your first time tuning into this podcast or if you've been here before, I am so thrilled and honored that you've chosen to spend some time together today. So thank you so much for being here. If you haven't yet joined my email community, which is totally free, I would love to invite you to do so. That gives you access to my free Akashic Records mini course, which is an 8-day video course that walks you step by step through how to open and read your own Akashic Records for personal healing and guidance. So I'm going to have a link in the show notes for you to be able to join us there. So in this episode, I am answering a listener question, which I am always so excited to do. So by the way, if you're listening to this podcast and you have a question come up at any point, or you want me to cover a specific topic related to the Akashic Records or spiritual awakening or healing or any of these topics, just please reach out anytime to me at josephinehartman.com and I will add your question or topic to my to-do list and create a future episode addressing it. So this question for today comes from Diane, podcast listener named Diane. So hi, Diane. If you are tuning into this, thank you so much for the question and for being a loyal listener of Inner Work. So this is what Diane said. I'm going to read her email first, and then we'll address the questions that are coming up here. Diane said, I am a novice at using the Akashic Records, but I'm finding that I'm getting subtle yet valuable messages during meditation. In addition, I sometimes get intuitive hits when I'm not in the records, often when I wake up in the middle of the night. Not in a cold sweat, but just the opposite. I feel very relaxed and calm, with the monkey mind quiet. I've experienced this before my work with the records and continue to do so. Wondering if you have any comments on this phenomenon and how it intersects or complements work with the records. So great email from Diane. And I want to start answering this by saying, yes, this is a really common thing that tends to happen, that can happen as we start working with the records. I have gotten this question many times, so I know this is going to serve many listeners out there. So what Diane is getting at here is really how the Akashic Records can supercharge your intuition and your ability to receive information at all times. So not just when you're formally or officially in the Akashic Records, but really at all times. The records can help you deepen your capacity to listen, to receive, to accurately interpret those messages and intuitive nudges that you're getting. It can increase the amount of intuitive hits that you're getting. It can increase synchronicities in your life and your awareness of those synchronicities. So the Akashic Records can support you in opening up your intuitive channels and turning on all of your multidimensional abilities. So these include what we call your clairs, so your clairvoyance, your clairaudience, your clairsentience, your claircognizance. These are, I refer to these as your intuitive channels because these refer to your clear ability to see information, to hear information and messages from your guides, from the records, to be able to feel it as well, and to be able to know information and to get downloads of information really accurately and powerfully. The Akashic Records can help with all of this because they do also support you in quieting that monkey mind that Diane brought up, which can be such a huge distraction. That monkey mind can interfere when we're trying to meditate, when we're trying to connect. I call it more the ego mind. And so when we quiet that ego mind, when we start getting that ego mind out of the way, that's when we can reconnect to the calm, still, wise, deep voice within each of us. And remember that that voice within you, when you connect to that wise, seemingly all-knowing, peaceful, calm, still, loving voice within you, that's your connection to divine source as well. That voice that you have within you is an expression of divine source itself. So this also speaks to how it truly is our natural state to be connected to divine source, to the universe, whether we call it the Akashic Records, the Akashic Field, or we call it something else. It's our natural state to be connected to that 24/7. Not in an overwhelming way, but to be connected in a calm, centered, relaxed, open way, just in the flow of that connection, which can help us navigate daily life with more ease, more wisdom, more love, more clarity. Another point I can make here is that when you start consistently working with the Akashic Records, when you make them part of your daily life, they will become more and more just integrated into who you are and how you are in the world, into your way of being in the world, how you're showing up in the world. The records are going to support you to show up more authentically, more powerfully, more fully, to really align with your purpose and step into that purpose. So the records are here to help you understand really what is that highest purpose that you are here to fulfill. What is your work that you are meant to do here in this lifetime? What is the legacy maybe that you are meant to build and leave behind? So what are the changes that you are here to make? And the records will work with you in terms of sending you guidance about all of these things, sending you information, sending you helpful insights, ahas, breakthroughs, all of that which you need during times of the day when you are most receptive to these kinds of messages and insights. So I'm not surprised to hear that Diane is getting messages during meditation and during sleep, even, in the middle of the night, since these are two of the states where we are most receptive. During meditation, during sleep, we tend to have the least amount of resistance, and ego mind is asleep as well, so it can't get in the way, as maybe it would during our waking hours or when we are just rushing through the day. Remember too that the Akashic Records can communicate with you through your dreams especially if you have some subconscious patterns, beliefs, emotions, memories, or anything else that needs to be brought into the light of day. Anything that needs to come to the surface for you to look at it and process it and heal it. When you dream, that's another inner state where you are most receptive, most open to information, where your subconscious mind can also open and is open to change during these times. So especially, or something you can do to work with this particularly, is to open your Akashic Records before you go to bed at night, and then leave them open during the whole night while you sleep. If you do this and you set a clear intention that you're going to be totally open to receive whatever is most helpful and most appropriate for you in your dreams, then the record keepers can do some deep work with you and can deliver some messages or guidance while you're still having a restful, deep sleep, right? So this is not at all about losing sleep or that you're going to be woken up or that it's going to be overwhelming, because rest assured that the record keepers can do some deep work with you and on you if you ask for it while you're sleeping, and you're still getting a totally deep, restful sleep. Of course, to know with 100% certainty that a message or intuitive hit or download or image is coming from the records, I suggest opening the records first, so you know you're connected, you know you're in the flow, and there's no other place that any of this stuff could be coming from, right? That's kind of the ideal scenario, so you're not going to be questioning, okay, where is this coming from, if you're already in the records. But if you do get a message or intuitive hit while you're outside of the records, so maybe your records were not officially open at the time of getting that message, could be in the shower, while you're driving, while you're out in nature, while you're in conversation with another person, and it feels like something they say is really a big aha for you or a breakthrough. So when it's happening that way and you're outside of the records, what you can do is, as soon as you're able to, bring that message, so capture the message, write it down, remember it. Then you can go and open the records and ask about it. So explore the message within the records. So you can ask the following set of questions. Record keepers, did you send me this message? So just to get a straightforward answer to that first and foremost, right? So records, did you send me this message? And if so, why? Was there something important about the timing of when the message came through? And you can ask the records that as well. You can ask, what's the purpose or deeper meaning of this message? What else do I need to know or understand about this piece of information, this download, whatever it is? What do I need to do with it? So is there some way in which I need to apply this message in my daily life moving forward from this moment? With that last question, as always, we want to be applying and making real life use, grounded use of the insights and information that we get from the records. That's what's going to lead to our expansion, our healing, positive changes that we want to experience and create in our lives. None of that happens unless we are actually applying the insights and living the insights and really making good use of them. So when you're asking all of these questions, so as we said, first of all, you're just confirming, okay, yes, this message or this hit came from the records, even though the records were not officially open when I got the message. It makes sense if you've been regularly working with the records that this can happen. So you can confirm that first of all, and then these kinds of questions also enable you to continue a two-way conversation or a dialogue with the records, which is really important. And I just want to say another little thing about that, which is, sometimes we may put ourselves in the role of being less powerful or inferior to the records, or, I have to go into the records because I don't know anything, right? So just some ways in which we may be giving our power away and seeing the records as superior or as all-knowing, which in some senses, of course, they are. But the point that I'm trying to make is you can, and you're meant to, be a co-creative partner with the record keepers, with the records. And it is your divine birthright to spend time in the records and to collaborate with them. So instead of seeing yourself as, I'm just going to go in and see if maybe the records are going to give me a little something, and kind of with this sense of reverence. I mean, of course, on the one hand, we do have reverence for the records because this is sacred work and they are a sacred tool that we use. But at the same time, it's almost like, well, you need to have reverence for yourself as well, because you are divine too, and you are powerful too. And the records certainly have reverence for you, and they see your full potential, and they see you as an equal partner. So that's really what I'm getting at, is just to see yourself as an equal partner and collaborator with this divine tool. That's going to help you not give your power away, and it's going to help you take that connection to the records to a much deeper place, and it's going to help you be so much more empowered. And ultimately, I want to touch on one more point related to Diane's initial question, because I think what we're talking about here is also the idea and the act. Well, let me put it this way. The idea of opening and closing your records can be fluid. The act of opening and closing your records can be a fluid experience. Sometimes it's not so cut and dried, right? Where it's like, now I'm in the records, now I'm not in the records. That is kind of a black or white way of looking at it, and it tends to be more fluid than that. Now, of course, in my trainings, I teach people how to formally open and close their records with a clear structure, a protocol, a framework, and it is important in beginning stages of working with the records to formally open and close the records in this way, to kind of put clear parameters and time limits and all of that around it, and not to just leave the records open forever the first time that you access them. And I want to explain a little bit why that is, or why that can be. So generally speaking, for our physical bodies and for our human nervous systems, it can take time and practice to adjust and to acclimate to the higher frequency of the Akashic field, which is vibrating at a much higher frequency, at a much higher level of consciousness and light than the human dimension. So it can take a little bit of time and almost like a gradual exposure to that higher frequency of the records for our physical bodies to get used to being in that space. And of course, this is going to be different for everyone. There's no hard and fast rule about this either, because for some people, they tend to acclimate really easily and they're in the records and it just feels so natural to them and it feels like coming home and it feels warm and welcoming and they can just be in the records for hours and hours and hours and there's really no problem, so to speak. For other people, if you spend some time in the records, then you might find maybe you start to get a little bit dizzy or a little bit disoriented. Sometimes it's, a learning curve in terms of understanding how to be in the records while also being fully anchored in your physical body, which is another thing I teach my students how to do in my longer programs, because it is so important to have that physical grounding as well. So it can take a little bit of time. It can take practice. It can take patience and just opening the records for progressively longer periods of time and allowing your body to adjust, allowing your body to integrate what you are receiving, what you are experiencing. So that's why I say sometimes in the beginning stages, it is important to formally open the records, spend 10, 15, 20 minutes in there, and then formally close the records and kind of put it to the side, and then give yourself some time to integrate and reflect on what you are experiencing before you're going to go back in. So there's really no rush to that process. And you have to follow the cues that your body is giving you. You have to follow the cues that you are getting through your intuition about how long to stay in the records, whether it's appropriate for you to just leave them open or to close them. So you need to follow your inner guidance on that. Now, all of that said, again, I want to emphasize that it is our natural state to be connected without interruption all of the time. All of the time. So this is why you may sometimes get messages, guidance, information, downloads, even after you have formally closed your Akashic Records. This is completely okay. As we said, you just want to check, go back into the records later and ask those questions to make sure that the message really is coming from there and how can you work with it. Now, at some point, many people who have been working consistently with the records for a while may choose, if it works for them, to just leave their own records open indefinitely. So again, once you've gotten acclimated, once you are totally comfortable being in the energy and the higher frequency of the records, once it feels natural for you and it feels fluid, then you can just leave your records open indefinitely and just have them as part of your daily life experience, just an integrated part of your life experience every day. So for me, doing this over the last couple of years or so, where I've had my own records open just continuously, that has allowed me to develop a much deeper connection to the records. It has helped me navigate human life with greater ease, getting less triggered by things that used to trigger me, and also recovering a lot faster if something or someone does still trigger me, which can happen sometimes. It feels like I can breathe easier and more deeply. It feels like I can stay centered even amidst the great chaos that is going on a lot of the time in the external world. Having the records open continuously has also helped me understand and embody my soul's purpose in clearer and deeper ways. And there's much more that the records have helped me do, but that's just a short list of that. And by the way, for me, it was about almost 2 decades of working with the records continuously, or I should put it this way, almost 2 decades of working with the records where I would formally open them and then close them, right? And then wait a few days or the next day, then open them, then close them. So with very clear parameters of when I would open them and when I would close them. And then eventually, a couple of years ago, I just got the message from the records, hey, you don't need to close us ever again. Like, you can just leave us open from this point on. And I was like, okay. So that's what I did. And they've been opened for me since then. And I just keep them open all of the time. Now, of course, it doesn't have to take 2 decades of working with records to get to that point. For some people, it's a week of working with the records and they already feel like, I just want to leave them open. And it feels right, and it feels natural, and it feels supportive. So that's what you can choose to do. Absolutely. And I will also say, even though I have my personal records open most of the time or all of the time at this point, there are also instances where if I decide, okay, I'm facing this challenge, or I'm having this relationship issue, or I'm having this question come up in my life, or this pattern that I want to work through and release. So if I want to do some really targeted work in that way with the records, I will still formally open them and close them so I can go in and do that active work with them. And that feels like it just gives it, what's the word I want to use? It just gives it a clearer beginning and end to that process of sometimes just doing really targeted work with the records, maybe for 30 minutes or an hour, where I'm doing a reading or session for myself. So all of this is to say you can experiment with all of this. Well, I will say the one case where this is less fluid, the one case where this is different is if we are reading the records of someone else. So if we're doing readings professionally as practitioners, or even if we're just practicing, not professionally, but opening someone else's records, then it's very important to formally and officially, first of all, get permission from that person to open their records for the purposes of conducting that particular reading. And then secondly, to officially close that person's records at the end of the reading or the session. So the way I see it, the way I teach this is a firm boundary. And we do this to keep things really clean, both for our sake as practitioners and for the client's sake, so that they know that we have respectfully closed their records, that we honor, the time in which they have given us permission to be in their records. And once that's done, then we no longer have permission. So it's so important to bring a session fully to completion in that way. And this is part of our ethical considerations and guidelines when reading for others. So we get explicit permission to open their records, and also, as I said, to be respectful, to be ethical, to keep the energy clean. We're going to formally close their records and give that permission back to them once the session or the reading is over. Because truly, the way I see it, as practitioners, ethically, we can no longer, for any reason or any time, access a client's records once the reading is complete, unless that client is giving us permission again, or we're doing a new reading. and we're getting that explicit consent and permission. So this also helps us, again, as practitioners, to keep the energy clean for ourselves in between clients, especially if you're seeing multiple people or reading for multiple people in one day or 1 week. You want to keep that energy clean in between readings. You want to close the records of one client before you open the records of the next client. This helps you wipe the slate clean between readings and not get information or messages mixed up from one client to the next. So there are just a lot of reasons why we have these firmer boundaries when we are reading for others. But when you're reading just for yourself, or you're working with the records just for your personal healing and personal work with them, then there is a lot more room to play and a lot more flexibility, and you can see what works best for you and how long you want to keep them open. And if you are receiving messages while you're outside of the records, what does that mean for you? And just remember to go back in and check and see how you can make sense of that. So I think we're going to stop there. Thank you again to Diane for writing in with this thought-provoking question. I hope if you are listening to this, Diane and everyone else, that you are receiving some helpful information from this episode, that it is sparking something for you. If you have any follow-up questions or new questions or topics you want me to cover on this podcast or on my YouTube channel, because I can create a video as well in response, just make sure to send those over to me at josephinehartman.com. Also, make sure to join the email community, which is totally free. You get access to my Akashic Records mini course. I would love to see you there. And in the meantime, thank you so much for being here. Take really great care of yourself. Keep playing with the records and seeing what emerges. And I'll catch you next time.